Is love blind? Is love blind? I guess we'll find out. Let's watch.
Come on down, guys.
Okay, Mom and Dad.
Oh my goodness.
Did you guys just call us Mom and Dad?
I did.
You guys are busted. How you guys doing?
Good. Hey, fantastic. Amazing.
I'm Vanessa Lachey.
And I'm, of course, Nick Lachey.
Funny story. Last night, I was watching Hot Ones, the Hot Wings interview show, and NSYNC was on, the five guys. And for some reason, as I was watching the Hot Ones video, I thought, I have no knowledge of these boy bands from this time. You know, in the aughts, I was in my 30s and I had given up on pop music. So I was looking up other little documentaries about, and 98 Degrees, right? And I watched some of 98 Degrees videos, and Nick Lachey, who I call Nick Lachey, was in that boy band, right? And it's weird seeing him there because I only know him from this show. I only know him from Love is Blind. So long story short, I finally know who Nick Lachey is in terms of his fame, and I listened to extremely short snippets of some of the songs that he sings on. And, you know, he has a good voice.
So
I like to think I'm super stable.
that's exactly what I'm looking for.
To be honest, I have a track record of crappy relationships. My last relationship was 6 months ago, but I just didn't feel like I was in love with him, to be honest.
What are you looking for in a partner?
Intelligent.
Okay, so we're getting to know some of the cast members. And so Johnie just said, I have a track record of crappy relationships, I think she said, which is interesting. And then she described 6 months ago how she just wasn't in love with that person. Okay, yeah. But when I hear someone say they have a track record of crappy relationships, I wonder what is going on there. Is it bad luck? That certainly can happen. Or is there some sort of schema as a result of childhood trauma that is resulting in being attracted to certain kinds of people and also contributing to a system within the couple that results in an outcome that one would describe as a track record of crappy relationships? But I don't know.
To be honest.
What are you looking for in a partner?
Intelligence, dependability, partnership.
Mm-hmm. What I look for, the independence for sure, the mental stability there, somewhat emotionally intelligent.
Oof, I'm your girl.
I can tell we would automatically be on the same page just from.
And they're really focusing on Izzy. I'm looking at my notes. So I'm going to take a guess and say that Izzy makes it to the end here. And he just said that he is really looking for someone who's emotionally stable or something. And he also said earlier that he's currently in therapy, I think. And he also said that he was raised by his mom and his aunt. So I don't know if he was raised really well and he just wants to be with people that have a lot of emotional maturity, or if he has been through a lot of difficulty and through therapy, he has healed and learned the differences, the spectrum of individuals who are potential, dating partners who have differing levels of self-awareness and healing that they've gone through. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I'm curious to find out more.
Emotionally intelligent.
Oof, I'm your girl.
I can tell we would automatically be on the same page just from what you've described.
I feel comfortable with you, so I'll just be honest with you. I dated a lot of people with addiction issues. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, this is a lot.
No.
Okay, so a little bit more detail. Again, could just be bad luck or the sort of people you're hanging around. Or she grew up with someone in her family suffering from an addiction. Or you can go through relational traumas that don't have anything to do with substance use, but the themes can be very close to being with someone with a substance abuse problem. Like if you had a dad who was a workaholic maybe and cheated, and he frequently would make promises and break them, and when he was around, he was loving and intense, but then he would just disappear, and that would be very hurtful and confusing. So even though that isn't involving a substance problem, once you start dating, you might come across someone, and you might even look for someone that doesn't work a lot. You'd be like, I don't want that because I saw what my dad did. And then you find someone who has a pretty good work-life balance, but they also drink chronically. And as a result, you are attracted to that person and they check all the boxes and they don't have any red flags for you because of the work-life balance thing. But it ends up being the same in that because of their drinking, they will disappear, they will break promises when they're sober, or they're not, maybe they're a binge kind of drinker, like on the weekends or something. And it can be the same, and it can, you can detect that early on in a relationship and subconsciously actually be attracted to that person and overlook things because of the past. You know what I'm saying?
Level stuff. I need to
Me
know
too.
everything.
I'm finally in a place to choose like a good partner for myself, and I just haven't found the right person.
Same. I'm at a great spot just all around.
I like you
And so I feel like
already.
my next relationship, like, I hope is my last.
Yeah.
It does get lonely, I'm not gonna lie.
I wonder if because he is emotionally mature seeming and the way that he talks about things, that he's a lot more appealing to people through the wall. I mean, maybe he's appealing in person as well, but it's interesting to think about the changing mores, even through just watching Love is Blind from 3.5 years ago with season 1, how preferences may have even changed in that short amount of time. Do you think that's true? I'm curious.
Have you been in long-term relationships?
I was actually engaged.
I haven't told anyone else here this, but I've actually been married once before.
Okay, so we're learning that Izzy was engaged in the past and that Johnie was married before and divorced now. And we're also learning that she hasn't told anyone else except for Izzy. There's a lot of activism that we as a society have participated in to dismantle bigotry and the patriarchy. We have a long way to go, of course, but we've done a lot. And there are certain things that we all understand, at least in certain circles, that it's not okay to stigmatize, right? Like, it's not okay to stigmatize being black or Asian or something. Or it is a well understood scientific fact that sexism is real, those kinds of things. But there are a lot of groups out there still that are experiencing mistreatment and stigma and unfair treatment from people for no reason, just because of weird societal ideas and biases that we have yet to actually advocate for sufficiently. And divorced individuals, that group of people is one of those groups. There's a little bit of pushback on the stigma, but not enough. And it's just ridiculous to me. And I've talked about this before, but the way I see it, it's what's the difference between, say, you meet someone when you're 20 and you're with them until you're 30, so you're with them for 10 years, and you never get married, you live together the whole time, and then another couple, same story, they meet when they're 20 and they break up when they're 30, but they get married at 25. Let's say both couples don't have kids. Well, what's the difference, really? There isn't any. You could say that there is somewhat of a difference. There's a wedding, there's a ceremony, there's a public declaration, I suppose, a legal designation. But to me, emotionally, there's really no difference. There are plenty of people that never get married that have intensely close relationships, dedicated relationships. So my point is if you had heard about someone, if someone comes on the show and it's just like, yeah, I've had a number of partners and some of them longer than others. I had one partner, if she said, I had one boyfriend for 6 years and say they didn't get married. What's the difference between that and her saying, yeah, I was with someone for 6 years and we also got married during that time? Somehow that's more shameful, and she knows that, and thus she can't talk about that.
I don't want anyone to think, oh, I'm the second husband, And I think
And then there's that bias, which is just based on another ridiculous tradition in our sexist society that men would feel like they're playing second fiddle to the previous husband. It has all to do with purity, and women need to be virgins, and that the fragile male ego about having to recognize that his wife has a history of a normal human history. So yeah, so she didn't invent these ideas. She has experienced them, and she's just reacting to that ridiculousness. She's not being ridiculous. It's society.
that some people will take it that way.
It doesn't freak me out, doesn't scare me at all. Look, if me and you
Yeah.
can potentially get married, you're not going to hold anything back from me, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to hold anything back from you.
I love you.
Yeah, you can see how some people really take to this form of dating because you're stuck in these pods, there's no distractions, and I don't think I had this thought before that some people aren't super verbal and they aren't really great with conversations, but they're still great people and they're good partners potentially, and how they would be really limited in their ability to present themselves well in these pods. He is, I don't know if we've ever seen someone that was better at just being able to chat with people and to talk about these kinds of things and react to things. It's interesting. That was a legit, you could have had that scene in a rom-com where she's like, ooh. Let's rewatch that.
We'll take it that way.
It doesn't freak me out, doesn't scare me at all.
Now, if they're focusing on them, we'll probably see them later, and some bad things could happen. So I always have to brace for that.
Look, if me and you
Yeah.
can potentially get married, you're not going to hold anything back from me, and I'm not going to hold anything back from you.
I love you.
Yeah, I don't know. Have we seen such a meet cute? They should have a rom-com about Love is Blind or something like it. It just seems like a funny premise to have, right? And I guess there's a lot of potential there. Like you have one of the producers, like a camera person, falls in love with one of the individuals.
I'm one of 6 kids. I'm in the middle. I had a
So a little comment on birth order and personality. There have been thousands of studies that have looked into birth order and trends regarding personality. And we have a lot of ideas in our culture about birth order and personality. Like people say the oldest is responsible, the middle is the lost child, and the youngest is the baby, that kind of stuff. And sometimes that does pan out. But long story short, with all the research, the birth order is not a good predictor of personality. There's a lot of other factors that play into personality, right? Not only just all the experiences you go through, but also even when you look at birth order, like with my family, I have an older brother and an older sister, and they're very close in age. And then I was like 7 years later. And then my little brother is 7 years after me. So for a long period of time, while I was the youngest. So which am I? Am I the youngest or am I a middle? And also my sister is the only daughter in my family, 4 of us. And her role is different than my brother because of gender, probably, I'm guessing, influenced anyway. So there's just a lot of factors that play into personality.
I had a fairly normal upbringing. My parents are still together. My mom has always wanted a bunch of grandkids.
Woo, that was a good date. Yeah, baby.
You know, I'll help raise the grandchildren. And then she saw like the pattern of my relationships. And she was like, maybe, yeah.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I don't know what exactly she's trying to tell us, but it sounds like her mom is saying she shouldn't have kids because of her relationships and her history. Ouch. My heart breaks as she talks about that. It seems like she might even kind of agree with it, like, or that there's a possibility that she's broken somehow and unworthy of having a life that she wants, one with a family.
Children. And then she saw like the pattern of my relationships. And she was like, maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's hard when your mom says like, maybe you're not meant to be in a relationship.
So she's saying maybe you shouldn't be in a relationship. So it's possible, who knows, that the mom did not say you shouldn't have kids because you're broken, but the mom might have said something like, after a string of very difficult relationships and the mom really worrying about her daughter, about Johnie, eventually suggests, hey, you know, relationships aren't for everyone, marriage isn't for everyone, as a way of trying to console Johnie, you know. So on that, as that narrative is charitable to the mom. Another narrative is that the mom literally says, there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't get married and you should never have kids. Who knows? But at the very least, I think what we're hearing, it's not like she's saying this like, yeah, my mom, she has her weird ideas. It feels like she is thinking maybe there's some truth to that. Or we're hearing that there's some enmeshment between her and her mom. I don't know. I'm really just grasping at straws because I am wondering what's going to happen. So I'm just sort of taking note of data.
Is it hot? Yeah, it's getting hotter. Do the butter test, man.
Who makes good eggs?
Are we doing scrambles? Sunny side.
So I don't think we've ever seen this being edited in, them showing the food that they're eating. I guess we knew that they were eating, but we never saw, at least to my memory. In my head, I thought they would have a bunch of catering or something, but it looks like they have things that they can make. But I wonder if they're including this in the edit because of what Nick was talking about. Nick, a cast member who I talked to on this YouTube channel and has been very vocal and has got a lot of media attention and well-deserved media attention for his account for how they were treated on this show. And I wonder if they're including this to say, no, we give them food and water and whatnot. Who knows? But it's just a guess. Because there wouldn't be a huge reason to just have this sweeping camera on bagels and eggs and cereal. You know what I mean? Like it's not this critical part of the show. And full disclosure, one of the individuals who watches this YouTube channel, my YouTube channel, actually works on Love is Blind and on Ultimatum and reached out to me, and she offered to talk with me and give me information behind the scenes within reason. And so I talked with her for a long time and got a lot of details off the record. And it was a really interesting talk. I learned a lot. I wanted to know about how it all works and how many people are involved, how many camera people and audio people and producers, and they have all these names for different positions. And there's your sort of gopher individual that's just going to get coffee or bagels or something or water, and then you have individuals that are much more senior in the organizational chart who are, they're designing the story, if you will. And it was just interesting to hear. And there wasn't anything salacious or scandalous that she was telling me. She wasn't trying to out anybody. And long story short, from her perspective, and she was clear about that, she's just like, look, this is just my perspective, and I've only worked on a few of the seasons. And what she said was that the showrunners, the people in charge, at least from her perspective, they're really trying to protect the cast members, and they're also really trying to avoid messing with the story. They are trying to, according to her, trying to set up a scenario so that people can actually have an experience and not be affected by the cameras and the knowledge that they're being filmed. Of course, you can't get away from that entirely, but it gave me hope that, one, the cast members are looked after, to some extent. There seems to be some effort along those lines. And also that they're trying to create a show that is as close to reality as possible and as farther away from manufactured as possible. Now, of course, that's just one person's story, and of course she's biased because she works for the company, but it all sounded believable. Now, there are very credible allegations and stories and accounts from cast members that are counter to that. The other thing that she told me, which I think is interesting, is that different seasons of Love is Blind are made by different groups of... So Kinetic is the company that makes these reality TV shows. But within Kinetic, there are different crews, whole different production crews. In different seasons had different groups. For example, what she was telling me was that this season 5, if I'm remembering right, has the same crew as Love is Blind season 1 and 2, whereas seasons 3 and 4 of Love is Blind had a different group of producers and maybe a different culture. The showrunners might even be different, that kind of thing. So I don't know what that says, but I think when we watch these shows and we have criticisms and we hear allegations and we're upset about what happens in these shows, I think there's a complicated story. Like you could have one showrunner for Kinetic that might have a different culture, a different vibe, and it sort of trickles down from there than another crew. And to me, I can almost see it, that seasons 3 and 4 seemed different than seasons 1 and 2, but who knows? I think it's nuanced, and we need to continue to advocate for fairness and for the cast and for non-exploitation and for legal protections and that sort of thing. But also, it's within their interest to listen to the customers and to adjust, and they seem to be maybe doing that. So I think we just need to keep putting, the pressure on them because they have to spend more money is the thing. They have to lose some of their profit by allocating more funds to mental health services and potentially longer shooting times because they have to stop the shoot to accommodate someone's issues that are happening in the moment. But I was encouraged. It seemed like things, seemingly from this person's perspective, things were going in the right direction. And she certainly seemed like a very caring, very, very moral individual who really puts the cast members first. That was her job, was she interacted with the cast members, and she seemed to really care. And to the point where she's friends with cast members after they are on the show. It's a big deal to her, that kind of thing. And she's a super reality TV fan. She's a super fan of reality TV before she started working in reality TV. So she's one of us that got into the business that seems to be one of us that cares about the cast and doesn't want exploitation to happen, is my point. Not to say it doesn't happen, but I just thought I'd mention that.
I was so nervous. I want to get married because, one, I want to have a family one day, and I feel like now's a good time because in the past, I don't think I truly loved myself.
Okay, so we're learning a little bit about Taylor, and yeah, it's heartbreaking. I am quite positive that she has a difficult relational history, probably going back to when she was a young child. The way we see ourselves, when we think about self-esteem, it is often framed as a choice that you make. And yeah, you can influence things yourself in terms of your self-image, your self-worth, your self-esteem. But largely, and data demonstrates this, the way we see ourselves is the way other people see us and the way other people treat us. So I have pretty good self-esteem, pretty good self-worth because my parents and everyone else around me, in general, 99% of the time, was positive with me and would compliment me, or at the very least didn't abuse me and didn't put me down, didn't over-criticize me, that kind of thing. And treated me in a way that led me to believe that I mattered in the world. You can have parents that are very complimentary, but if they don't treat you in a way that makes you feel like you matter in the world, then you feel like you don't matter in the world. And sometimes it can be circumstantial, like your parents have an illness like cancer or something, and children are very self-centered, not because they're jerk faces, because they just don't understand yet. Say you have a 5-year-old kid who has a parent who is in and out of the hospital, and it's not uncommon for that 5-year-old to conclude that if they were a better person and if their parents loved them more, then the parent wouldn't be going in and out of the hospital, and the kid might intellectually understand, but in their heart, they feel differently. So there's a lot of roads in terms of circumstance, whether it's overt or subtle, that can lead to someone saying that they don't feel like they love themselves. And so the solution is also relational. We often frame the solution to that. It's like, oh, you just have to believe in yourself. That doesn't work. If that worked, then people with these histories would just on a dime change. That it never works out that way. The facts are that in order to counter the way you were treated and the conclusions that you came to, you need to have different experiences. In my lingo of therapy, we call them corrective emotional experiences. It's a very complicated topic, but in essence, in therapy, if I treat someone and cultivate a long-term relationship with a client who has low self-esteem, and we talk about positive self-talk or choices that they can make, or dismantling certain ideas and beliefs in their mind about that, about notions like, well, I'm a terrible person because I'm 25 and I'm not married yet. We can dismantle that thought and that belief, and maybe even convince her of that. But the real healing happens in the way that our relationship plays out. Now, you can engineer these corrective experiences in your outside of therapy, like with a good relationship. Some of you might have even experienced this, where you did go through a lot of difficulty growing up and you did have low self-esteem, but then you found a really good partner, and that person through thick and thin loves you and has taught you through that marriage or long-term relationship, maybe even a friendship, that you matter, and it has countered the early experiences that you have, and thus you have greater self-esteem currently. So that's how we help with self-esteem. We like to think of ourselves, particularly as Americans, as independent creatures that we can just will ourselves to. We don't need other people, and also, Americans will even say, if you need other people, then you're weak. If you look for self-esteem in other people, the way that they treat you, that means you're weak or you're looking in the wrong places. That's wrong-headed. We are social creatures. We are one of the most, if not the most, social animal that has ever existed on this planet. I mean, you right now, you're watching another human watch a bunch of humans. You could be doing all sorts of things with your time. Why this? Because you are a social creature. You recognize that. You have a need to see what other humans are doing, and you want that connection, and you are also watching about people being connected. Just think about all the rom-coms and all the love songs and all the reality TV shows. It's all about connections and breaking up. We are constantly obsessed because we evolved to be that way with each other. And so this notion that you can just sit there like a turtle. Anyway, she's saying that she didn't love herself in the past, and I'm guessing there's still some of that with her today.
Yeah, I struggled with loving myself, and I feel like I let myself go, and I love myself now.
Okay, so maybe her tears and struggle in this interview is the grief she has, the sadness she has about her in the past, and now she is different. So what do I know? I mean, she might have healed sufficiently, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's at least some of that still with her. The other thing she said, that she let herself go. I wonder what that means. Does that mean that she went down a road of addiction or relationships that were harmful to herself? It kind of sounds like her narrative is that because she didn't like herself, she didn't feel like she deserved a good life or something, and she just surrendered to it and said, I guess I'll just sabotage. I don't know. I'm making a lot of assumptions, but I guess maybe we'll find out. All right, well, let's adjourn there. I want to give a shout out to the members on YouTube who are called the most deserving viewers. These are people that are members at the highest level. We have Fern and Kimmy and Kinks Arts and Karina and Amy and Heidi and the Clearfield vlog. The Clearfield vlog. Thank you so much for being members and also at the highest tier. That is really just a huge honor to me. And everyone, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.